It looks like in Monsters Inc., when Randall pops up and disappears.
What
And
is
then,
it with Randall? Like, why are you? Oh
I don't
no!
know. I feel like
Oh,
there's a
there it
Monsters
is.
Inc. reference for anything.
It's the same reference you keep making, though.
Yeah,
It's
well,
not even a new reference.
he's very versatile.
Welcome to Oddball. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Tonight, we'll be sitting down with Chris Dillon and Rob Ford, the co-directors of Goliath, the Showtime docuseries following the life of Wilt Chamberlain. But first, the headlines.
Thanks, Amin. Last Friday, the NBA sent a memo to all 30 teams regarding the rhetoric on the trade request made by Damian Lillard and his agent, Aaron Goodwin. The memo read, recent media reports stated that Damian Lillard's agent, Aaron Goodwin, called multiple NBA teams to warn them against trading for Lillard because Lillard... Oh, holy shit, this thing's long. Do I have to read all of this? Like, do we even have time for this? Jesus. According to Mark Stein, Team USA is continuing to pursue Joel Embiid for the 2024 Olympics. Just like Embiid's wedding, there was no invitation for James Harden.
Did we ever get to the bottom of that?
No, journalism takes a long time. You got to be patient. It would also be the first time since 1884 that the French relinquished someone so tall to America.
Thanasis Antetokounmpo agreed on a new deal to return to the Milwaukee Bucks. Agreed to a deal? What was that negotiation like? I want $20 million. We'll give you minimum. I accept your counter reluctantly. What about this one? Guys, I'm ready for another trip around the sun. Let's do it, baby. Yeah, about that. Oh, hey, happy to do it again, baby. Thanasis can't have enough of you around. The Los Angeles Lakers agreed to a 2-year, two-way contract with someone named Fudge. Guess no word yet whether Ramon and Beezus are coming along, huh?
Is that a Beverly Cleary joke?
You bet your it is.
I underestimated you, I mean. Are you sure they didn't fudge the numbers?
You're better than that, Charlotte.
Former LA Clippers guard Baron Davis believes James Harden would be a good addition to the team. I think that would be dope, Davis said. The Clippers need another playmaker, somebody who can get fouled, slow the game down. Kawhi, playoff P, Russ, Harden. What could possibly go wrong? Sorry, I am being told everything could possibly go wrong.
In an interview with CBS's 60 Minutes, Charles Barkley revealed that he and Michael Jordan still haven't spoken to each other in years over a beef stemming from Barkley's criticism of Jordan's track record as a team exec and owner.
Barkley said,
you can't be great at something that doesn't get it right to be a jerk.
You think you'll resolve this eventually?
He got my number.
Which is sure to up the chances of a reconciliation with the famously forgiving Michael Jordan.
Charles Barkley doubling down on beef. Who could have saw that coming?
Oh, come on! Really?
It's good-natured fun. Come on. Jordan Poole has removed all traces of his Warriors tenure from his Instagram profile. In response, the Warriors are attempting to remove all traces of Jordan Poole's performance last season from their memories.
A video of Tyler Hero working out recently went viral and has some Heat fans debating the Damian Lillard trade. Look, if all it takes is a video of Tyler Hero shooting a bunch of threes to make Heat fans doubt Dame, then y'all are a bunch of dummies. Sorry. Please still let me into the Kaseya Center. Julius Erving released his all-time top 10 NBA players list. I always argue with my son where Tim Duncan belongs, Dr. J said, and he's like, he belongs ahead of Karl Malone for sure. I'm taking Karl Malone in that last position. I like Tiny Archibald. No respect to the doctor. This list is its own joke. I'm not even going to try to make one.
Dr. J went on to criticize today's NBA stars for demanding trades and forming super teams.
It just where a star player on the team is like, screw this city and all that support that they've given me, and I'm going south. I'm going to Florida, or I'm going to LA, or I'm going to Texas, or I'm going somewhere else. So, these decisions, and they're business decisions.
Right.
I understand.
Right.
Or whatever. But they have not helped the game. And they have not helped to keep the parity within the game.
I know the internet is loud and angry at the Hall of Famer, but I, for one, stand in solidarity with the good doctor. This super team phenomenon is very, very bad, and it does not help keep parity within the game. I can't stress how new this phenomenon is, a product of modern athlete avarice. I also can't think of anything worse than great Hall of Fame caliber players switching teams in the primes of their careers, and certainly nothing as bad as a reigning MVP getting signed and traded to a team that had been to the finals in 2 of the last 3 seasons. Abominable. They should put an asterisk next to that title team. Just ruin the game. NBA Reddit coming up next. But first, shout out to Drake. Aubrey Graham, fan of our show. I like it.
Wait, what? Drake watches our show?
Damn right. Look at this. He's wearing the San Diego Conquistadores Wilt Chamberlain jersey. Last week on this show, we talked about getting ABA merch made and sent, authentic ABA merch. Charlotte, we are changing hearts and minds.
You really love to see it, Amin. Also, whoever sent him this, can you please send us merch?
Yeah, Meadowlark Media. We're at the Elser Hotel, downtown Miami. That's all you got to do. Just put it in there. Care of Oddball.
We'll check the mail.
We have our favorite segment for you guys right now. We still don't know what to call it. Amin, what are you calling it right now?
That segment where we read things off of NBA Reddit and watch the other person react. That's the whole title of it.
Okay, cool. Well, I have one for you.
Okay.
Are you excited?
I'm lovely.
They're usually pretty fun. Gotta unlock my phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Who is the worst player in the NBA if you include playing time? In other words, which player contributes to losing the most? Who has the most inefficient scoring, bad defense, is turnover prone, and makes boneheaded decisions? There are a lot of bad players, but most of them barely get to play, so they don't usually have the opportunity to contribute to losing. If you account for playing time, who is the worst player?
Okay, this is one where I need to do some research.
Okay.
That's because that's going to take me a while to think of.
Yeah.
But I can record this little beat right here. Typically, the worst player by that metric is a guy who plays a lot for the worst team.
Oh.
That's a quick shortcut.
Okay.
So I would think about Detroit. I would think about San Antonio. I would think about Houston. And yeah, I think those are like the 3 front runners as far as the worst teams in the league.
And do you think that that means that player is necessarily bad, or do you think it just means they don't have the tools and the people surrounding them that they need?
Every player, by the way, is not 99% of the players in the NBA are very dependent on the infrastructure around them.
Yeah.
What their teammates are, what their coach is, what they try to use them as, what they themselves understand about who they are in this grand scheme of things, and the accountability. 98% of NBA players, I think, could look really good in one situation and really bad in another. And it's just all about the context. Then there are ones that are like, it doesn't matter where you put me, I'm always going to be awesome. It's like LeBron and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. And then there are ones that are like, you shouldn't be in the league, which, it happens from time to time. So, but that's not what.
But it's unlikely that guy's playing a lot.
No, that person's not. That person is someone at the end of a bench who's there for a favor, for example, right?
I was going to say it's a college coach's son, for example.
Or like the best friend of the player, or perhaps the older or younger brother of the MVP of the league, something like that.
Maybe just off the top of your head.
Maybe, right? So, but this question is asking who's the worst rotation player in the NBA?
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to this one from somewhere else, from the multiverse. Amin's going to travel for
By the way, also, I just want to point out, y'all gonna get my ass kicked because I'm gonna say, Bootsy Johnson or whatever, and then Bootsy's gonna see me and be like, I heard you say that about me. I'm at Summer League. I'm playing right now, but when I'm done, I'm gonna come kick your ass.
I wish I could say it wasn't. I wish I could say it was by design, because that would have been. We would have then filmed you with Bootsy.
Film noir. Who's Bootsy Johnson, by the way?
He is. It's actually a woman, and she is a bartender in an old Western movie.
No. A woman bartender in the old West? Ridiculous.
On Showtime right now is an amazing documentary series about the life and times of Wilt Chamberlain. It's called Goliath, and we're really happy to have the co-directors of the movie with us right here, Rob Ford, Chris Dillon. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. It's an incredible piece of work. I had the honor of being able to be at the premiere with you guys in Vegas, where you guys showed part 2. I got back to my hotel room and I binged all of it right after that, and it is remarkable. I want to start with perhaps the most, I don't want to call it controversial, but one of the big things about this documentary that people are talking about is the use of AI to synthesize Wilt's voice, saying Wilt's actual words. And my question, I guess I throw to either one of you is, whose idea was this? How did you guys come about? You know what we should do? We should have Wilt do his own words.
When Rob and I were given this task, we wanted to help give Wilt that, because Wilt died, shortly thereafter, and it never happened. And as we were making this, obviously we can't talk to Wilt. We can't interview him and ask him about the personal things that we wanted to talk about. It's not just a basketball documentary. It's about, his entire life, and especially about the ways that he felt about the things that were important to him. So we hit upon the idea with our supervising story producer, Chloe Boxer, of instead of using a narrator, we would let Wilt speak for himself through his writings and through his quoted text. And so we started that process. We tried text on screen. Then we decided to cast a voice actor who we brought in, who has a voice similar to Wilt, a very deep baritone. His name is Michael Kunda. And he performed Wilt's words for us. And that really could have been it. And then I brought up the possibility that because Wilt wanted to have a voice in this, and because he was Wilt, the technology now exists to essentially morph Michael's voice and his performance into Wilt's voice.
Once you hear his voice, it just became really, 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 really personal. And then, we shared initially just the concept of like, this is what we want to do with the family. And of course, at the time, it's brand new. So folks are still kind of like, don't quite get it, but it sounds cool. Mm-hmm. And we're on board and it sounds like a fun idea. So let's try it out. And then they hear it, in the real thing. And to be honest, it was like for a lot of them, it was difficult to determine the real thing, from the re-speecher voice, which was really trippy.
And that's a testament to Michael too. Like Michael worked on a performance,
right?
Of Wilt and Wilt's rhythms, and Wilt would emphasize certain words like me, that he saw in the archival. Like Rob worked with Michael a lot, and Michael, is doing a performance. And it is and if the family didn't want to do it, that's just what we would have done.
It worked so well. I think I went in skeptical about the AI, just because I think I'm skeptical of robots in general. And I was so impressed with how it brought the story to life the way you said. Another thing that I thought really brought the story to life was the shadow puppets, the cutouts, mm-hmm. which gave it such a distinct feel. I hadn't seen that anywhere, and it was so effective. I mean, I felt like I was in those scenes, even though they were all silhouettes. How did you decide on that, and who's the artist who made all of that?
It was interesting how we got there, because initially our hope, goal, and desire was for this entire film to be archive driven, where you just live and archive verite in the spirit of like Senna or Maradona, mm-hmm. or like the Amy Winehouse documentary. Those were sort of our initial references. And the hope was this footage and material would exist. And so when we started the process of, excavation with respect to archive, unfortunately, it just didn't exist to the volume of being able to just live in that for the duration of the film. And then when we started interviewing people and we started doing research, the best stories that we were coming across literally had nothing visually to support them, be it footage, be it photography and still photos. I mean, it's literally just like more mythical urban legend campfire type stuff. And it's like, but we have to be able to see and show something. And so we talked about several things, abstract, B-roll. We talked about hiring a 7-foot person and putting the camera on their head so you can see the world through Wilt's point of
Yeah.
like standard animation. And what it all ultimately comes down to at the end of the day, and most things in life is time and money, right? And so what could we do with the budget we had and the time we had schedule-wise? And this is where the manual cinema came into play. And the work is so cool, and it's actually shadow puppets. It's not, animation. And so, we gather the line producer and we run the numbers to try and figure out how we can figure out if we can even pay for it. So we reach out, we pitch them, and they were super excited. It just became something really, really special. But everything in there is conscious. The silhouettes, the string, that we decide to keep attached relative to narratives and people's story being controlled. And even how Wilt was always, if we hope this comes across in the piece, but he was always tethered to the world, where he was having this external dialogue of accept me, love me, see me as human. And that was something that was super important to him.
He's kind of the forerunner for the outgoing NBA celebrity superstar, right? Someone who crosses over from the world of sports to popular culture. And obviously he went on and he made the movies in Conan and all that stuff. But really even before that, when he was just a basketball player, but clearly a personality, he is kind of a trailblazer in that way. I'm curious what you guys found as far as surprising examples of that, particularly given the time period.
I think he's more than the forerunner. I think he's the progenitor of all of this stuff. I mean, the goal in part was to reveal at every moment of this piece something new about Wilt that you didn't know, or something that you thought you knew. But there's a level of depth or nuance to it that you might not have been aware of. And there's so many examples that come to mind. I'll just, from episode 1, there's 2, because Wilt was the first famous high school athlete of any sport and first nationally covered through the media. He was interviewed in his home when he was being recruited by colleges. And there's a moment in the piece where he's answering the question from the interviewer about where have you gotten, letters from? This is 1954.
Right.
And he says, well, I've got them from all over. I mean, the East, the Northeast, the West, the South. And there's this moment, this beat, and the interviewer goes, the South? Because this is Jim Crow.
Right.
These are not integrated schools. And the fact that Wilt was so great and so famous that he essentially challenged and broke the racism of segregation in the South in schools, where they had to choose between their racism and their desire not to give an opportunity like this to a black player, and their greed, because have you seen the guy dunk? Like, he sells a lot of tickets, where it's like, greed wins, and he had power, and he was the first one to realize how much power he had and that talent gives you, and exercised it.
With all these projects, you always have something where you're like, oh man, I got to fit this in, and either because of time or it just doesn't fit the rest of the narrative of the documentary. It just can't make it in there. What's something that you guys felt like, oh my God, I wish we could fit this in?
This, honestly, this should have been 2 more hours. Like there's so much story around basketball and not basketball with Wilt, and even just being able to live longer in some of the things that, we have, where it's like, there's more here. So one thing that's not in from a basketball standpoint is when he coached in the ABA. Right. I know that, Amin, you are I don't know if you're a fan of the movie Semi-Pro, but I
Of
know
course.
that you don't hate it.
Everybody love
That is
everybody.
a fascinating bit of Wilt's. It's just fun. He's choppering up to San Diego for the Conquistadors, and he's coaching in barefoot. Not coming to any of the practices. Like, there's a lot of fun there. There's a lot more fun to be had with volleyball. I think on a personal level, the one that Rob and I really wish we could have gotten in, but you just can't always get all the interviews you want in the time period that you have to do them. Is the reason why Wilt was close to Ike Richmond, the owner that Rob referred to, who offered him an ownership stake, was that they had a personal relationship outside of him being the new owner of the Sixers. And when Ike traded for Wilt, got him from San Francisco, Wilt had nowhere to live, so Wilt lived in Ike's house with his family and like his kids for the remainder of that season. This is the Havlicek steals the ball season,
Right?
So Wilt is living in Ike Richmond's spare room, and just hanging out with his kids and stuff. There's a lot of really fun stories like of them playing cards together, and you see this side of Wilt, and you also understand their relationship. Why was Wilt so attached, and why did he love Ike the way that he did? And you get a window into that. And there's just so much basketball stuff. There's so many things to get into that we don't really get a chance to unpack to the depth that you would love to.
There were some players, former players or coaches, or these legendary figures that you interviewed for the film. Over 40 interviews. Who are the people that you felt the most excited to see, or even like a little starstruck to be talking to?
First, I'd say Pat Riley was like the starstruck. Wow, all of that magic, sitting right in front of me, and we're just talking basketball for almost 2 hours. He was supposed to do a 60-minute interview, and he hung around because he just was having a good time. But my God, is he an amazing storyteller, and so just detailed and vivid with painting pictures. And he has such love for Wilt. There was the gentleman, Ray Scott, who is a former player, the first Black coach of the year for the NBA. They're both from Philly, as in Wilt and Ray, and they grew up together, as young adolescent friends. His everything, like his stories, his perspective, his historical knowledge, and then just his poetic, charismatic delivery. That was one that was just like the most unexpected interview that gave us so much.
We got to talk to Wilt's sisters, and the stories that they told it's such a different thing if we can't hear about him as a kid. And those painful and beautiful things about like their mom being worried about the fact, because Wilt had never been an athlete who looked like Wilt, who was rich and famous until he invented it. So like the fear that the family felt that like, it's not going to work out for you. That's amazing. From just an excitement standpoint, the logo, I got to talk to Jerry West, and
your face, even when you just said that, is like,
I mean, come on. Like, these are just moments in life that you have to check yourself and be like, I can't believe this is happening. He said, Wilt is one of the most misunderstood people I ever knew.
How was he most misunderstood?
I mean, there are levels to that. But there's the basketball side and the non-basketball side. From a basketball standpoint, the narrative that depicted him as self-interested, completely numbers driven, indifferent to winning, and not clutch, like, a loser. Like, those things are, all in reference to the fact that his teams didn't win. That really bothered him, and it hurt him that people looked at him that way and ignored the fact that, he was putting in his teams in a position to win a championship every single season, except for one. He never felt like people understood him.
Man, I could sit here literally for hours asking you millions of questions. We didn't even get to, the archival footage that you do have is insane, like the national championship game at Kansas that they lost. I didn't even know that tape existed, and you guys had it with play-by-play. You guys have to check out this docuseries. It's on Showtime, 3 parts. It's called Goliath. Chris Dillon, Rob Ford, the co-directors, so gracious with your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's awesome.
Thanks for watching Oddball. Up next, David Sampson's How to Crush the Working Man, a 3-part series.
You broke me with that one.